Welcome and thank you very much. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Romy. So I'm here wearing my Strandloper Project hat and just sharing one of the projects we've been doing, which is drone mapping the mouth of 3 estuaries. And it's actually revealed quite a lot. So we've done the Tow estuary, the Swartflare estuary, and the Kokama estuary. And we've used Kokama as a control, and we've looked at certain components. So the project's morphed quite extensively. The original idea was just to look at the genesis of a sandbar and the closing of the mouth, what the mechanisms are behind that. But it's unlocked a lot of other interesting things which we'll get into. So just by a show of hands, who's moved to wilderness in the last 5 years? Okay. Who has been in wilderness for more than 15 years? Okay, so that crowd, you've seen phenomenal changes in your period of time living here. The others, hopefully you're not the people that have been creating the changes. But we all come here for a reason, okay? And this pretty much is a nice storyboard, other than I haven't got paragliding in there because I ran out of space. But we're all here for a reason. We're here for the nature. We're here because when we get down here in December, from wherever we live, and you go and you step out on the beach, you go into the forest, you go up to the waterfall, you go canoeing, you go walking, snorkeling, paragliding, cycling, and you decide, you know what, I want a piece of this. I'm going to take a salary cut, move down here, or go into the internet, make even more and move down here, and I'm going to enjoy nature. Sadly, in the last 30 years, I've seen clear felling of properties and then building. Okay, so it has its impacts, and we're going to get into that there. But I just want you to remember this, in that this is why we are here. And if you've got friends, family, whoever are going to move down, just remind them why they come in here. If they want to have a rose garden, stay somewhere else, and that. But, and there's reasons I mentioned that, which will come out as I chat. Okay, so here is just an idea of, or example of what we're doing. We started in August 2022, drone mapping, and having a look at that, changed the model of the drone, changed some altitude parameters thanks to Sean's advice. So that's why it looks a little bit different. But what I find fascinating, whenever you chat to anybody, they always remember where the mouth was, okay? And Hugo's given us some nice accounts of what the mouth looked like with some historical photos and all that. But it's amazing how people's paradigms of what they remember and what happens don't always sync, okay? And this is just a classic example. Preparation. We get a broadcast like we were supposed to have floods right now, and everybody then preps for floods, gets it ready, it doesn't happen, and then we do have rain, and it goes out, and then the channel starts wagging. I like to say it's like the wagging of the tiger's tail, and then slowly it starts closing up. And there's quite a mechanism to that. So let's take a look at an event. So we've had it opening here in October 2023, and you'll see that the channel is wide and it's straight, okay? So while you've got your flow of water coming down the river, you've got this lovely straight channel, okay? And then, and you see in October it's nice and brown. We've just had the rain, and that brown color is one of the indicators of the rate of flow. So you've just had a heavy amount of rain, you've got a good rate of flow out of the catchment area. You then start getting those lovely azure or blue colors of water, and it is, that's when you want to go swim, and especially at that time of the year, November, it's really magic to go and spend time in the estuary. But you start noticing a narrowing in the channel, and then you start noticing a bit of a build-up. Sorry, I've got so many little gadgets here. Okay, so you start noticing the narrowing, and then as you go in a couple of weeks later, you'll notice the channel starts zigzagging, okay, and then it's closed, okay, and that's the flow of water. Now, what's interesting is a lot of people think that the sand depositing there is from the catchment area, okay. The reality is the mechanics and the flow dynamics is that your amount of suspended material carried by water on the inflowing tide is a cubic amount of what's on the outflowing tide. So when we have a very careful look over there, you can see there's a sandbar, but look at the direction that it's going in. Look how it's grown there, and look how much it's grown over here. So you're getting more sand getting deposited into the mouth and the estuary from the ocean than you are getting it from upstream, okay, at the mouth. Okay, we'll get into the other components just now. So, but what is interesting is that the sandbar starts growing, in this case, from the western bank, okay. That's the sand getting deposited by the ocean. It changes the flow dynamics and the channel dynamics quite extensively, and the sand then gets deposited on the eastern bank on the outflow. Okay, so you actually got a very interesting component when you look at all of the different snapshots, but you can always see, and this is a good indicator, that the mouth is going to be closing. Okay, and so it's quite important to understand this. And if you just want to have a look at what some of the sand doing here, this was earlier this month. Okay, we had those big bits of wind. So the water was there. I thought that's a fantastic one, but you can already see how the sandbanks have been pushed in by the ocean. One day of big swells. I didn't get out because of the wind, and the drone wasn't going to handle it, but just look at the amount of sand that's got deposited there. That has clogged or corked the mouth of the estuary. So a really significant one to understand the dynamics when managing the system. Okay, so why have we got less sand going out or less sediment going out of the estuary and the catchment area than what we've got going in? Okay, it is a dynamics, it is a tidal influence, but there's a couple of other things. So let's look what's choking the flow. So where's those hands that were here in the last 5 years? Okay, so what we've seen internationally in Western society, in middle class and upper class communities, is that the average house internationally is up to 40% larger than the people who build it that they grew up in. So we are making our houses that much bigger, okay? That means extra surface area, less garden, less penetration of water into the soil. So you've got a huge amount of different components. But what's even more important is when we have a flood event or a heavy rainfall event, and in 30 years I've seen this here, everywhere you see a mudslide, something like that, 99% of those, you just have to go up the flow of the water, and you will see a human impact and influence. You can go walk through the forest and you won't find that, except for one or two places. But everything, you can go down the slope, down the stream, down the sheet water runoff, and you will find erosion taking place. Just that clearing, that little bit, opening that section of surface area, cutting the canopy, which arrests the kinetic energy of the raindrops coming down, allows that slow penetration into the soil. That is disturbed by clearing. So now the problem is, when we have a look at when there was only like all three of us here from 30 years ago, is we had a lot of surface area still covered by natural vegetation. But now, you just have to scan around, and even in the last 5 years, in fact, since 2020, you just have to have a look around and just see everything popping up like mushrooms. And I like to say it's the mold of society, but not the shape of it, but the stuff that grows on bread, the fungal component of it. We are like mold on a slice of bread, and it doubles every day, and you are always one day, so when you're at 50% cover, you're one day away from 100% cover. And we are slowly and sadly seeing this occur, not only here, it's not only wilderness, it's the whole of the garden route. And I'm just thankful that we have got Cape Nature, sand parks, and a couple of forestry areas here, because you just have to drive George to Mossel Bay and you see exactly what's happening. And those of you from Gauteng, anyone? You all remember from Joburg to Pretoria, the Midrand was just like lovely felt and all of that. And now go have a look at that. And that happened in the time that my high school and my undergrad degree, that's the time frame that happened. We are in that situation right now. You just have to try and get on the N2, turn onto the N2. It's like being in Johannesburg. So it is something that we're having a look at. We are choking, we're using more water, we are disturbing the whole balance of our water cycle here. We're consuming humus, a lot more. You just have to walk up to the Toa River waterfall and look at the different diameters of the pipes. And those have been increased regularly to accommodate the requirement of water for the wilderness community. Okay, so the last upgrade was in 2013, and I am very sure that we are not far away for needing another upgrade in pipes. So it's a consumption, a 5-minute shower and a Gauteng shower are two different showers. That's the reality. I'm in the tourism industry, and I get my Gauteng guests, and I say, okay, please, water restrictions, 5 minutes, yes. And 20 minutes later, it's done and dusted. And when you've got rain tanks, you know exactly how much water is getting consumed, because you just go have a look. And it's amazing how 2 people can consume 1,000 liters of water in 5 days. And it's just ridiculous from that perspective. Okay, so our urban development and peri-urban development is having an impact on retarding the flow out of the catchment area, thereby reducing the washing out of sand out of the estuary mouth. Okay, that's the one component. The other is agriculture. And sadly, in the last 30 years, we've seen a major transition in agriculture. We've gone from dry land, grazing and production, to irrigation, and now we're starting to get crops and orchards that need a lot more. And the sad reality is that as much as we love them, where's our vegans and our... No, it is. And our funny milk, who has milk in their lattes and their cappuccinos, and who has a plant-based alternative? Yes, okay. So the reality is, what we're seeing here, this is primarily an export product, okay? It's not getting utilized. It's consuming a huge amount of water. You just have to drive along the top here and see what's happened in the last 5 years. And we're starting to export our water. And this is something we've got to think about, because we've got increasing population. Everybody's migrating or semigrating down here. The demand for domestic water is going up, and the demand for abstraction for agricultural purposes to export a product has increased dramatically. And we're going to get to a water conflict situation. The last 18 months we've been blessed, but if you were here in 2017, you would have known how difficult it was. Okay, and we're going to get back to the 2017 scenario. I missed Guy Preston's talk, but while we've had the forecast for rain for the last couple of weeks, how many berg winds have we had? Okay. The other component that we've got is, after the last fires, we've now got more biomass of alien vegetation, and that's what drove the 2017 fires. We just need that to dry out, but while we're waiting for them to dry out, they're growing. The factor of transevaporation by alien vegetation is much higher. So in the last 30 years, we've had climate change, which has had our average rainfall drop, and we are now consuming more water with alien vegetation, agriculture, and urban demand and consumption. And so we're getting less flow out of the catchment area, and we were already against the factor of a cube compared to the in and outflowing tides. So now we've got less water going out, and we are going to have this choking a lot more. Plus you've got sea levels rising as well, thrown into the mix. Okay, so it's something that needs to be planned for. We've seen the impact in Swartvlei, and this is what triggered this, was we saw water levels dropping after rain because the mouth was closed, and that was in summer, and abstraction for agricultural purposes and domestic during the December holidays was enough to drop the Swartvlei estuary by over 10 centimeters, while it was enough water to open the Kokama and the Tow rivers in the same period. So it tells you what abstraction for agriculture is, and a lot of them, are going for that, and the avo smashers, love avos myself, but personally go plant an avo tree, and if you all have an avo tree, you'd never have to buy one, save yourself a lot of money, and save the environment as well. Okay, so what happens in a flood pulse? Coming back to our properties. This is the debris coming out. This was the April flood. And you just have to walk up and down the beaches now. So a lot of organic material. As I said, every time we have heavy rainfall, flood conditions, you just have to go down the slope, down the stream, down from a human interference, a pathway, a road, a clearing of a plot. And you can see the erosion that's occurred there. And it's the death by 1,000 cuts. It's that small little one. Everyone thinks, oh, well, it's not my property, it's not my property. Sadly, it's not your own property. It's not one property. It's the collection of them. If you go up the Tow River, up the brown-hooded the half-collared kingfisher, and then cross over the pond, and you go onto the giant kingfisher trail, and you're on the boardwalk, there's that little section. The boardwalk comes to an end, and you go around the tree over a little sloot, and then back onto the boardwalk. That occurred in 2007. You used to walk straight across that. It used to be level. You used to have the pipe next to it. That blew out about 30 cubic meters of sand, of material coming down that little stream, which is dry most of the time. That blew out in 2007 in that flood, and someone had just cleared a property up that little stream. And that was the impact that it had. For those that remember it, we had a lot of debris just at the fuel station, and that gate that goes underneath, that tunnel under the N2, that got closed and it got packed up. And I remember a guest saying they'd gone and parked their Land Rover to fill up with fuel, gone across to the little spas or this little shop across the road, and the water came down and built up, and when he came back, just the roof of his Land Rover was sticking out. So, and that was the devastating impact of that. But, so this is where we're starting to get sediment. We're getting, because we've got those clear-cut properties, because of our agricultural practices where we are not leaving a buffer zone, preferably between 50 and 100 meters from the embankment of a river. We're not keeping our trees, we're not keeping our indigenous vegetation to retard the flow and the kinetic energy and the impact of water, we are getting erosion. And it's taking it, and that's then building up the higher parts of the catchment area and the rivers and the estuaries. So we've got a double whammy, and you need those flood pulses to clear that out. But it's something that we've just got to have a look at and be cognizant of, and rethink that clear felling. And if you see your neighbor starting to do it, please. I know that's what Save Wild's about, is trying to stop all of that. I mean, you just have to go around. There's like 4 or 5 properties right now that you just think, seriously, is that the way to go? You know, I hope if you are here and you're one of those properties, you think about it. We've just had somebody now that they're proud. They put a whole lot of canners in their property. So they cleared and put canners. I was like, look. Anyway, now they want to get rid of their canners and they want some advice on on what they should be planting there. So at least that went well heeded. So below the surface, what happens? Our estuary, while it's open, is nice and healthy. We get some good fish coming in. The estuaries are a nursery because of the reeds, and we're very fortunate here. This is the southernmost coastal lake system in Africa. And it's a system. There are other lakes, coastal lakes, that are further south than us. But, and we're really privileged in wilderness in having that. You've got the Serpentine going into Island Lake, into Lungflay, into Rondaflay, and you've got that lovely mechanism for fisheries. But the sad reality is, with the mouth being closed for extended periods of time, you get a degrading of water quality, and at this time of the year, sadly, the Serpentine gets impacted quite dramatically, and then you start getting die-off of fish. Last year, or no, it was about 2 years ago, we had like sort of 40 centimeter to 50, 60 centimeter cob dying off, just because of the degradation of the water. So there are impacts. I haven't done a survey for the hairy or the shaggy sea hares, but it is quite amazing. Sedgefield hasn't got shaggy sea hares, but in the Keerbooms at the moment, there are shaggy sea hares all over. So I haven't actually done a survey in the toe lately, so I can't really make comment. But the last time I did paddle on it, I didn't see any shaggy sea hares as well. So that's quite an interesting change, and they're usually full up. Whoops. Okay, so what happens with this and our change and within the estuary, our change in agricultural, our driving towards GM products and the chemicals associated with that is, these are 2 interesting photos. Just by chance, I managed to get this image here, 2013, as we're going into our dry spell. That's the same location in 2019, okay? Here you've got a little bit of sponge, nothing else growing on, and there you've got sea fange, the sponge has grown, and it's really, really great. My interpretation of this is that this was while we had lots of water flowing, the mouths were open a lot of agrochemicals were flowing out of the system. As soon as we got into that drought period, 2017, 2018, and leading up to that, the mouths were closed much longer. This is at Hyricus Point, but it would be similar along here. And that the chemicals were killing off the reef cover. And as soon as you choke the mouth, then, so there's a good thing to keep the mouth closed. Stops the agrochemicals going out. But then you start killing off your reef cover. If you don't have your reef cover, you don't have your fish. If you don't have your fish, you've got very unhappy fishermen. Okay, but what we also have, so in April last year was the first time I started documenting die-off of the sea fans. This is also what happened in April last year, red tide. eutrophication of agrochemicals are driving most of our algal blooms internationally. But in this area, we definitely are getting that. We have heavy rains, particularly over the summer period, and so early to late summer, we get algal blooms 5 to 6 weeks later, and the last 3 have driven red tides. And following the red tides, we're seeing die-off on the reef. We're also seeing your bivalves and a lot of other reef cover dying off from that. So the impact in our catchment areas in the garden route on not only our estuaries but our ocean can be very, very devastating if it's not addressed and people don't contend with that. You can QR code that and check out other stuff we do. I've been told, and I've run 2 minutes over because the tea guys are ready, but we put a lot of this story on our social media as well. It is on our website and that. And thank you very much. And I've got to say thank you very much. We Strandloper Project. We are an NGO. We do it out of passion. We've had a lot of support from some local businesses, and which drive most of our expeditions. So we do an annual expedition. But also thank you to all of you guys, and that's what we want. A happy reef means we're doing it properly inland. Thank you. Thank you.